Talk about Machinima. Talk about Machinima. Hey guys, it's me, and we're with a very, very special guest. It's the one and only uh, Celtichorn.
So you're all welcome back to MachiniphobiC. That voice you heard just there was my co-host Flick. I'm Derelict Country, and this episode is sponsored by Game Grub. If you use code machiniphobe13, you get 30% off your first order. So thanks to Game Grub for sponsoring this episode.
Oh, I mean some Game Grub right now.
That's awesome.
I'm also laying in bed for this interview. I'm in bed.
Sorry, well, yeah, okay. So you can continue introducing our guest, Flick. I'm sorry to have cut across you.
Yes, Celtichorn, the creator of Honor Guard versus Down to Fuck and the Halo Olympics, and maybe most importantly of all, the animator for oneself scenes, Celtichorn.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Glad to be here.
He's bent over. He's at an
Yes,
angle.
Flick.
This
So
picture.
obviously, we
I
have
just noticed.
a relationship. The three of us have kind of worked together on many projects. It'd be kind of quicker to list the things that we haven't worked together on. We've worked with Celtic on oneself. He's been
Mhm.
on a lot of the retolds. I think we go back as far as Civil Discord as well. So I guess without further ado, Celtic, we'll stop hogging the internet tubes and let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. Flick said, I'm Celtichorn, or rather, that's my online moniker. I like making animations and machinima videos. With Halo. I like working with Blender a lot. I recently am starting to really get into 2D animation with using Blender. I have a little show for the Jackass Express podcast, which I work with them as well. It's called 9 a.m. and I just like making things to make people laugh. That's the whole goal of what I try to do, is to get people to laugh at themselves and laugh at life.
You're more of an OG than me and him because you were doing machinima long before me and Flick even got our hands on, capture software or anything like that. So I kind of want to start where the beginning is really, and kind of how you got into making machinima.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that when I was in college, that I had a break in between classes, and I always look for places to just hang out and do nothing. And back then, you had cyber cafes. Like, God, I can't believe I'm that old. And I would just hang out there and drink coffee and wait for the next class. And during one of those times, I was watching some stuff on this internet site that became real popular, known as YouTube. And one of the recommendations was for RB and the Chief. So I go and I watch that, and I'm like, how the hell did he do that? And it was really cool. And then I also noticed, oh, hey, I like Halo. They gave him recon armor, which was really important at the time, which dates me so badly. And I wanted that too. So I thought, hey, I'm gonna make my own show. And a couple of years before that, I had done a stupid comic book for my friends in high school, and it was called Honor Guard versus the Drill Team because we were in ROTC, so that was what we called ourselves, the Honor Guard, because we had little sabers to present, like the court for the homecoming and all that. And then we had our rival team, the Arm Drill Team, and we'd used to make fun of each other all the time. So I figured, well, hey, this is a good way to kind of make fun of them even post high school, right? So I just got one of those super old. It was like a red, tiny, like Dazzle something capture card, and I found it at a computer store that was going out of business, so I got, like, a really good deal on it, and I used a very basic Logitech tiny little microphone, which I was super, super proud of, and I just started writing crap, like jokes and all this dumb stuff to, put online, and then I realized, "Hey, you know what? I should actually make this a story so that way it's not, people are just watching nonsense for nonsense sake," and, it I thought it was funny at the time, and the only thing is I got to a point in it where, like, I guess, and I hate this because it's so cliche to say, I got to a point where oh man, the thing I want to do, I can't do it yet because I didn't know anything about like animation. I didn't know how long it actually took. I realized it might get a little bit tiring to hear my voice through 17 different characters. So I thought, I'll put this on break for now until I can find a better way to do it. And here we are 14 years later. Not quite have gone back to it, but it was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
14 years. Do you look back and view it favorably, or is it one of those things where you just completely avoid watching it now?
I don't avoid it. I still wish I could finish it in a way because I like the idea that I started something. I could have, I mean, and it taught me a lot. I mean, and those things have transferred to other things. Like I've learned that with, editing, not everybody's going to want these long drawn out shots. They're going to want things that are kind of quick to the point, especially when we started or when I started, YouTube was like your video is 10 minutes long. That's all you got. So it's like, get to the point, move on, get to the next point, move on,
My
and that was
God.
it. And then a couple of years later, they introduced the whole, okay, well, if you have so many videos, then you can go for 30 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to make something that's 30 minutes long. So I just kept at the 10-minute format. And then eventually they opened it up to you can keep it as long as you want. And I just kept making stuff. And yeah,
Wait, that was
you'll notice
a
that all
thing
the
back
videos
then?
on mine and even like John Graham's early work and Michael Johnson, who made a show that I really liked called Pre-Game Lobby, that all those beginning videos were under 10 minutes because you only had so much
Wow.
time to make a video.
I remember that.
That's interesting. I was just saying, because my first episode oneself, I would have had to cut 4 minutes from that if I was back in 2008.
Oh my God, how could you cut 4 minutes out of pure Kino?
Well, I would have had to. I did not know that, Celtic. I've learned something new. You really are an OG YouTuber.
Well, I guess, but yeah.
We're relics from time gone by. My first ever YouTube channel, I did really shitty Death Note AMVs, and I remember seeing in the guidelines, you can't exceed 10 to 15 minutes because you're not meeting certain kind of requirements, and that's fine because at that stage I wasn't used to putting in effort for anything more than 20 or 30 seconds. I just get a clip from a Faulty Towers video or something and put it underneath it, clip from Death Note, really badly lip sync it, and that's what I'd fucking do. So I'm glad things have gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like the constraint helped in a way because you were forced to like channel all of it within that time frame and then back off, as opposed to nowadays where you can like think yourself to death over one joke and you'd like, oh, let's just do all of them, and then it just becomes this big jarbled problem, which got to me. And that's why I stopped making stuff because I was like, oh my God, I can't tell a joke coherently without tangenting off into all these several different areas.
Do you worry too much about the outcome of what the joke or what the story is, or are you someone who can enjoy just the process and you kind of end up wherever you end up?
Oh, I love the process. The process for this is like my favorite thing in the world. I'll make videos that I'll never put out because they're just cool to mess with software and editing software and all that stuff. But yeah, when I put it in front of people, that's when I get a little bit nervous. And after I found out, oh, okay, you can get recon armor by, doing the whatever the achievements were at the time with ODST. And then I kind of lost my incentive as to why I was doing it. And then afterwards, you kind of get that feeling of, oh crap, people are watching this. I'm gonna walk away over there. I'm gonna walk away a little bit.
I actually have a question that I wanted to ask Flick in the first episode, but I'm going to ask it here. I'm going to try and make sure I
Sure.
ask it in every episode. Have you ever screened your machinima in front of someone live action, like in person, and what was that experience like? Like, what was their reaction, especially if they were someone
Ooh,
who,
that's a good question.
yeah, if someone who hasn't had a reference point for that before?
No, I have not screened any of my stuff in front of anyone in real life.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Okay, well, that question is going to go straight to Celtic. So
I have, and I regretted it very quickly. At the time, you kind of want people to laugh, but when they laugh and it's not at the things you're intending for them to laugh at, that's when you're like, oops.
Well, you've confirmed that I made the right decision then, Celtic. I keep
No,
calling you Celtic.
that's fine. Okay, for instance, like at the very beginning, I made the show about my friends, so they were my first audience, and then they would come back and be like, "So what's this you're doing again?" And I show them, and they're like, "Okay, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna be able to help out with the next episode because I'm just kind of busy." I'm like, "It's okay, guys, it's fine." And they enjoyed it and they thought it was funny, but I could tell to them they're like, "What is going on?"
That's
But
rough.
yeah, that
Was
was my
that was that
experience with live
was
people.
that was that is that on Honor Guard that happened with?
Yeah, the characters in Honor Guard versus the Drill Team, the main 6 characters are based off of real people, my real friends. Julian, Brandon, Tip, Chase. They're people that I've known ever since I was like, elementary school, grade school. I mean, and I've talked to them for years and we've always had, these really stupid conversations. So I thought, what better way to make a character than off of your friends? So I thought I'm going to show it to them, and they're the ones that looked at it and are like, "Oh boy, what's going on here?" And I'm like, "No, just watch it. I promise it's funny." And then that's when it became an issue of, "Oh gosh, I'm more insecure than I thought."
Yay!
It's not easy.
Yeah, but I mean, but I love it. I love making it. I like doing that stuff. And so it's like it's not really for them. It's about them, but I guess it's more to have that creative outlet. And I thought it was good. I had fun with it. A lot of things I would change, but oh shoot.
I did show Machinima to 1 or 2 people in real life. I haven't showed it to anyone in my immediate family, but I showed it to since the period I started making content for YouTube, I've been in
Mhm.
about maybe 3 or 4 relationships. When I made Civil Discord, I was seeing someone and I
Mm.
showed them. I think I showed them Civil Discord. I might have showed them oneself. And this is a person who wasn't particularly keen on movies anyway. So
Mhm.
they had a hard time understanding any kind of art form. They were very much business orientated. My current partner, I showed oneself maybe a couple of months into the relationship, and
Mhm.
I shown them oneself not long after. Like I shown them oneself after I showed them my stuff because why would I put someone else's stuff first, right? And
Mhm.
they told me after seeing my stuff and Flick stuff that they said, "Oh yeah, I prefer Flick stuff to your stuff." So
I prefer flick stuff to my stuff too, so don't feel
yeah,
bad.
I know. I have no there's no
Don't
shame in
blame me.
admitting that Flick's Machinima is more entertaining than mine.
This is I mean, I
I
think I
agree.
think you've made some brilliant stuff. I just oneself is just it's amazing. I
Yeah.
I enjoy it very much
Well,
so.
I think Honor Guard versus Down to Fuck is also pretty good as well. The
Thank you.
Yeah.
especially the I really like the I like the Mexican scene where they went flying. That was a really good scene.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying my best to balance out what I was really fascinated in at the time, which was the Derelict's gonna kill me. The Irish culture. I was still just a really tiny child trying to understand how it worked. But then I also wanted to show some of my culture so it wasn't like, I'm doing one way or the other. So I like the idea of throwing in the Mexican hat dance to them getting beaten up.
Also, what does DTM mean?
Okay, like I said, in high school, there was another team and they were like we would pick on each other, right? And we were the
Yeah.
honor guard. We used sabers for like ceremonies, and they would use these fake wooden rifles, and they were called the armed drill team members. So the way that it all started is I started calling it the honor guard versus the drill team. And so drill team member is like DTM is short for drill team member, essentially.
Oh.
But since they don't
I mean,
actually have drills on their hands, it's just the energy sword. I made up the excuse that the sound that the energy sword makes sounds like a drill. So that's why they call them the drill team
I
members.
see. 'Cause they're like the zombies in your show.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh, that's what you're calling them, brain dead. That's your insult.
Exactly. And the thing that starts, confusing us is when the DTM start acting smart, because 'cause we're like, "Wait a minute, they're actually supposed to just be dumb. Why are they acting smart?" And that's where the story's supposed to start asking a bunch of questions and all that type of
I
And
stuff.
yeah.
yeah, that was pretty cool.
One kind of scene that stuck in my mind was, I think maybe it was a scene you were talking about the Irish culture one, where everyone is in the pub and are singing
Oh
Irish
God.
songs. That
Yeah,
one
I'm
hit home
so
for me.
sorry. I'm
It's
so
fine.
sorry. Okay.
I'm not gonna flag cultural appropriation on your end. I guess.
Fair, fair. Thank you. Um, no, I had heard that show. It's by Da Vinci's Notebook. It's called Another Irish Drinking Song. And the first time I heard it, my friend had introduced it to me because he heard the name Tip in it, and then he heard the name Pat in it, and he goes, "Oh my god, you guys have to listen to it." It's actually Julian, the guy who's based on Julian, and or who Julian's based on. And I listened to it, and I cracked up for hours. And I'm like, you know what? These guys are supposed to be idiots. I have to do this somehow. But of course, I couldn't sing worth a crap. So I just kind of, you know, did it like a little song. And I figured, you know what? It's terrible, but that's what I wanted. So here it is. And I love that ending part where, it gets that little deep melody in the actual song, not in mine. Mine sounds terrible, but in the actual ending of that song. And then that was supposed to lead into the next part where you find out that Sergeant Major actually got into the base and he was about to try to kill John, and it was a whole thing. Oh, I remember being all excited about that.
Flick had notes actually about the character John, didn't you, Flick?
Oh yeah, was that character named after John Graham?
I've been asked that before, and believe it or not, at the very beginning when I started making that, and because it was very obvious that I was kind of inspired by him. But no, actually, that John is based after my real life brother, whose name is Jonathan, and he was actually the honor guard commander in high school. So it was originally named after that John, and then as time went on, it was like, wait a minute, there's this other machinima which everybody was aware of called Deus Ex Machina, where the main character was John Brent, named after John. So then I'm like, oh no, they're gonna think I'm copying him. I was like, well, I already made the episode, so I'm not gonna go back and change it. And
Oh,
but no, it was named after my brother.
that's pretty cool.
It all kind of connects because I didn't believe that was based off John at all. But when I was talking to Flick about it earlier in the green room, I was saying that it's ironic that Celtic would kind of connect it to John because in I think the first project that we worked on together, which I think was Civil Discord, you actually
Yeah.
voiced the character of John in that, which was crazy. You know,
Oh yeah, yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay, so your most viewed video is the Halo Olympics. What was your idea behind that?
Oh yeah. Okay. After a while of making the series, I realized it wasn't getting much views. I guess in terms of when you compare yourself to others, never a good thing. But obviously, I was comparing myself to John, and I was like, I got to get something that hits 10 million views. So I was like, what can I do? And I thought, okay, I'm going to go into Forge. I'm going to make an obstacle course, and I'm going to use my characters from the show I want people to watch, so that they're saying, hey, who are those characters? And they'll go watch my actual show. But instead, they liked it more. And a lot of people really got into it, and people were sending me submissions. I don't know if you remember in Bungie, the old Bungie website, you could send video files of yourself, like little short clips, nothing too long, and you could download them. And so what I would do is I'd tell people, send me your videos, show me that you finished obstacle course in this time, and I'll give you like a prize for the next thing. But obviously, I was a kid; I didn't have a whole lot of money.
What was the prize? Oh,
The prize, no, that's fine. The prize was actually, I so dumb. I would say their name, and then I would like cleverly, which I thought was clever, spell out their name and like weapons on the floor. And that obstacle course that they won, that
Mhm.
name would be on that obstacle course forever.
I
You know what I mean?
mean, 12-year-old me would have found that really cool. So I think that's a good prize.
There you go. There you go. I thought it was fun, and I that helped me learn a lot about Forge. Ironically, so I got better at going in between the two shows with that, and it was a good time. But then what ended up happening is it became a lot of work to do by yourself. I actually made Bungie's front page with that one. I remember that. I made Bungie's front page with that first, no, was it the first Halolympics? No, it was like the fourth one. And one of the guys from Bungie actually told me, "Hey, this is really cool. We saw this, we laughed at it, we really liked it." And I was like, "Oh my god, this is it. Here comes recon armor." I know it's a terrible way to think. But obviously it didn't it did didn't lead to that, but it was nice to get a compliment from the people that I respected so much. So
That's
that was
awesome.
That'd have been so cool if you got recon.
Yeah. I mean, even just to get acknowledged by Bungie, I think was a big deal, especially back in the day, you know?
Oh, it really was. And then there is this guy that, and this I'm just gonna geek out Bungie for just 2 more seconds, I promise. That I forget what his name was. He was one of the set designers, and he was on Twitter, and he had a contest to say, okay, what is this? Oh, it's Vic de Leon. He was one of the original concept graphic artists for Bungie, and he had made like a little riddle on Twitter, and he goes, whoever can solve this, I'm going to send him a prize. So I go, I know who this is, so I'm just going to say his name out. So I sent him the message and all that, and then he messaged me and he goes, okay, you want a prize? What's your address? I'm like, okay, this is my address. They can't come any harm from giving your address to people on the internet. And boy, was I dumb. And he sent me some limited edition Halo 3 sneakers. And they were so cool. But here's the cool part. I asked him, I said, I know this is a stretch, but since you work there, is there any way you can get the entire staff of Bungie to sign them with a silver Sharpie or something? And he goes, sure. So sure enough, I got them and they are freaking awesome. It's so cool.
You still have them?
I sure do. I sure do.
You should frame that in a glass.
I know. Right now I keep them very safe in my little closet where no one can find them, not even me. I have to protect them from moths and stuff, but
That is
no,
that's gonna be a very interesting episode of Pawn Stars one day.
who the hell are these people? Aren't they the ones that ruined Halo? Yeah.
You know, I
Mm.
$5 is the best I can do, and I'm breaking the bank at that.
Mhm.
Everything walks
Mm.
through my door. You never know what you're gonna see. But do you have any interesting pieces of memorabilia that are signed by famous people?
No. I mean, if I sign something, would that count?
You signed it for yourself?
Yeah, if I sign it, since I have like 181 subscribers now, does that count?
Well, no, it needs to be in the possession of somebody else for it to be significant. If you signed it for yourself, Flick, that's basically a contract or it's like a bank statement for your bill or something.
Let me see.
I have a signed picture of CM Punk.
Do the rest of them.
Yeah.
I still have the box, and they're just my favorite little prized possession that I'm like, oh
Have you
man,
ever worn them?
no, I don't want to. I don't want. And plus, they're not my size anyway. They're a little bit too small for me. And then I found out later that apparently the limited edition Halo 3 shoes weren't all that popular. So I'm guessing that all the employees at Halo got one or at Bungie got one, and they're like, oh, let's just give these away because I don't really want them. And but I thought it was cool, and then they signed them, so I was like, heck yeah, I'll take that.
That's cooler than anything in my retro game collection.
It was a different time, but it was very fun. I was gonna say that during that time that Halolympics happened, it just was really cool. But like I was saying, it became too much work, and then I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can keep this up. And then at one point, my Xbox died, and I couldn't get the battery out. I couldn't get the memory storage out. I was totally new to all that stuff, and I felt so bad because almost all the videos that had been submitted for the next video that I was about to do were gone. And I was like, oh
Oh
my god,
no.
I don't want to have to go back and do that again. So I just said, you know what? I'm gonna take a break, and then I just kind of never came back to that.
So, do you still have the Halo Olympic? I'm guessing you don't have the Halo Olympic maps anymore.
Um, I might have made a copy somewhere, but I think maybe I have the first stage somewhere, but the rest of them I don't. I think they're all gone.
No.
I know, I know. Trust me, that broke my heart because I was like, you spend so much time on these things, but then I didn't know enough about backing up your work. Someone said you should probably back up your work, and I didn't do it, and well, crap.
Makes me
But
really sad face for you.
I know I went from 15,000 views back down to 300. I was so angry. That's when I made Underguard Killathon. So angry.
I wonder if you had the choice between going back to Halo Olympics or going back to Honor Guard versus Drill Team, which one of those would you want to go back to?
I think I would go back to Honor Guard versus Drill Team. I've been wanting to. I mean, I know I mentioned to you a couple times that I've been messing with it, trying to figure out now that I've really gotten into animation, but problem is my machinima skills are just gone. They're completely gone. Especially with Master Chief Collection, I try, but I can't get it to look the way that I want. I can't manage multiple players. I used to use like 3 Xboxes because it was me and my 2 brothers, and I would use like 3 Xboxes, and I would put like 4 controllers on each of them, and I was literally running between rooms trying to do certain shots. And even though that was a lot of work at the time, it was really fun. But all that is kind of like now I got 1 Xbox and a kid that I got to make sure he stays out of my office because he'll break everything. God bless him. And now I'm trying to think what would be the best avenue to continue this. And I would want to do it with like animation, but then that's not really machinima. So it's like I got to find some kind of balance between the two.
You could do a reboot.
I was thinking of that,
Reboot.
but I wanted to keep the if anything, I would go back and just fix the audio for the first episodes because I don't want to forget how terrible I was. I just want to make it more digestible to people so they're not like you're getting sound in one ear during the beginning of one episode and then it blows out both eardrums in the next shot, you know? And I just want to fix the audio and do stuff like that.
Would you just re-record it from scratch, or what would you do?
I would re-record it and then with my limited knowledge of audio correction now, I would try to fix it so that it sounds just better.
Are you gonna are you gonna get different voice actors?
I've always wanted to get different voice actors. I've always wanted the original guys to voice their own characters. And they did for the first episode. A few of them did for the first episode. But then I could tell that, they kind of grew up and they were okay with it, but they were uncomfortable. And I was like, you can't have a voice actor be uncomfortable. So I wouldn't mind looking
I
for
mean,
people to take those roles, and
I feel like Flick is going to fundamentally disagree with that point, and I can imagine why. Because I think a lot of the cast for oneself were extremely uncomfortable while they were doing their lines.
I mean, if they're supposed to feel uncomfortable, it's okay. Like the character.
I know, Flick, but if the Me Too movement has taught us anything, is that voice actors and physical actors should
I'm not,
feel safe and protected at all times.
I don't abuse anyone. I don't abuse my voice actors. I
You
don't
said
abuse anyone.
you said abuse, not me. I said people should feel safe, protected, and I guess in some cases represented. And I think the character of Luxon would probably raise a few
Just
questions.
that point. Seriously.
I still have the bruises, Flick. I haven't told anybody, I promise.
No, I don't. I don't hit anyone. I don't. I do protect my voice actors, and if you would like to voice act for me, then feel free. I will not harm you. It's okay. You're safe with me.
I will say voicing Delta is one of the funnest things to do, like ever. Just to go nuts and just let your brain just say whatever comes out. I love that.
I think that's how the script was written as well.
Shut up! Shut up!
I thought it was good. I mean, I enjoyed it. I was laughing.
What I was going to say before Derelict interrupted me was I would love to voice in your series if you're having voice actors.
That would be wonderful. I'd be totally cool with that. Yeah, and I wanna. I mean, if ever I get back to it, I over what's the word? I overcommit myself to too many projects, and then by the time I get caught up, I'm like exhausted. But if I ever seriously have time to work on that, I will definitely call out to some of the older people that I know, especially you, Flick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of the two-way street of collaboration where whenever someone is nice enough to give me their time to work away a project, I like to pay it back as well because I guess at this point in time, I'm not in a position to financially reimburse people, but I would love to, offer my help to anybody who takes the time to help me out with my projects because I obviously I'm very thankful, and
Mhm.
obviously Flick is as well. Flick is all about the art, and I like that about him.
Yeah, yeah, and they're like I disagree with what you're saying because you've definitely compensated me in in terms of advice and pacing and editing and stuff like that. I mean, I think that's valuable stuff. You have to pay someone to teach you how to do certain things, but you have experience in that, and it helps me out with my other projects. So I think that's a very valuable exchange.
Oh, you're welcome. Um,
Hmm.
Thanks.
yes, I do. I've given him lots of good advice. Editing skills.
I wouldn't be where I am today without Flick. Thank you, Flick.
Love it.
So I do have another question for you.
Sure.
How did you land? If how did you land a podcast with John Graham?
Wait,
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
If, you-
So
if you listen to his podcast, you know that John Graham is one of my heroes, and I'm very jealous that Celtic got to speak to him.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you would probably do a much better job of speaking to him than I did. I after everything kind of dwindled down in terms of my making my own stuff, I wanted to collaborate with some of my friends and work with them doing something that they wanted to do. So two of my friends, Tip and Chase, actually said we want to start a podcast. Well, I had this idea because I was I was never really good at any one thing, but I was kind of like a generalist. I was kind of good at a lot of things, but not like really good at one thing. And my mom had made the conscious. My mom told me I'm handsome. No, my mom told me that you're like a jack of all trades, and I'm like, okay. And I thought, well, more like a jackass. And I thought, oh, I'll make the Jackass Express. So we made the Jackass Express podcast. We did that for like a lot of years, and then some of us got tired, some of us were moving on, my friends were becoming important people, and I was like, "Okay, I gotta do something else." So my friend Tip and another friend, we started another podcast called Who I Did Ask For, based off of a Minecraft server, which I know is hard to believe, but when Minecraft came out, it plagued everybody. And, eventually, it was during the summer, I remember I was at a party for my wife's cousin,
Okay.
and I hadn't emailed John before with certain stuff, and he had responded to me, and this was after he finished, I think, season 7. And I just kinda was talking to him back and forth about some stuff. I paid him actually. I said, "John, would you be willing to write some articles?" Because I don't know if there was, like, a financial thing going on with him. I think he was in between jobs and somebody, like, screwed him out of something. He started work on a project and they pulled it out from underneath him in the middle of it, so he was broke. I was like, "Well, John, would you be willing to write, like, an article for my blog at the time?" And he said, "Sure." So he wrote 2 really funny blogs, and, he was like, "Hey, I appreciate the help." And I said, "Hey, just by chance, and feel free to say no, would you be interested in being on a podcast?" And because I know you're not really, I didn't want to say it in a mean way. I was like, "Oh, right now you're not really doing anything. Would you care?" And I said, "I'll even pay you." And he goes, "No, I'll just be on it." And I'm like, "Wow, okay." And similar to you, Flick, I mean, I like I said, I found a lot of inspiration from the guy's work. So I was nervous as you wouldn't believe to talk to him. So it was supposed to be me and him talking, but I got so nervous that I asked my other podcast guys to be in there too. And it was really nice of them. They're super nice and they're very like accommodating. And my friend Dan, he's from Canada too, so I had somebody to kind of relate to that atmosphere. I don't know why I thought that would help, but to me it did. And John was very gracious to come on and tell us about what he was working on, what he had done in the past, what he would like to do, his favorite movies. And but I do ah God, I don't want to out myself here, but what had happened is that I was so nervous. If you watch the video, you can see I keep reaching off to my right, and what was off to my right was this big old bottle of Sailor Jerry rum.
nice.
And it was great, except for halfway through the podcast, I started getting a little bit like incoherent. And I'm like, oh my God, here's somebody that I'm wanting to at least respect my work. And I'm having a little bit of a, you know, um, I'm having some trouble articulating my words properly. And I think he could tell too. And it was kind of embarrassing, but we finished it and he did a great job. I was super happy about it. The Why Did Ask for podcast obviously didn't quite work out. So then my friends became more available. So we went back to the Jackass Express. I brought my friend who was working on me with that to that one. And yeah, that was it. But It just happened to be the right time. He had no other obligations, and he was being super nice about it. That's really what it amounted to.
He was friendly to you.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he's very professional. He actually mentioned something to me, and he made a lot of sense that you can't really have friends online. I mean, that's his opinion. I don't agree with that because I met a lot of really, really good friends online, and but to him, if he hasn't met the person in person, then they're nothing. They're nothing. No, I didn't say that. They're not really someone you can call a friend because you don't know them well enough to be interacting with them. And poor John, like kind of like myself, I guess, and most people who make content online alone in the room sometimes, we're not very sociable people. So we have a hard
Or
time
all the time.
or all the time. I'm that way too. And you struggle being social with people. So you'd rather not expand your circle of friends. You'd rather expand your, your viewers and your audience, but your circle of friends, you keep it to people that, are more close to the chest. They won't randomly come out and, you know, come at you for no reason. And, that's his thing. He said a lot of things and I said a lot of things and a lot of disagreements. But I mean, he's a cool guy. At the end of the day, he's a cool guy. He does cool stuff. I don't always agree with what he does, but I mean, I think he's a nice guy, you know? Obviously vastly more successful than me, so I can't really point to anything bad about his process. But
And
It's good that John made time for that because I think it speaks a lot for a creator when they can engage with their fans or at least have some kind of back and forth that goes beyond just text or reading out super chats. Obviously, I don't think any less of any creator who doesn't do that, but for
mm,
John, at least it was nice to have a kind of a nice equal two-way street on that and be able to respond directly to what's being said.
yeah, and I think to his credit, this was before the internet kind of fell into this let's say anything we can to get a rise out of him or a reaction out of him
Mm.
mentality. I mean, I mean, I'm sure, like Derek, I know you're definitely old enough to know that it's been such a shift from online viewing with streaming. People used to be very like chill and relaxed and just making dumb little jokes, but now it's like, holy cow! Especially, unfortunately, John made a character that was the epitome of what negative internet culture was like in Master
Mm.
Chief. So everybody thought that he thought this was humor, and so they kept hitting him with it. And then I can see where he was like, "Oh shit!" Wait, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes, fuck yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Making sure. But I can see where the frustration came in, and even if a joke's funny, if the joke goes on too long, you get kind of like. I mean, I'm not defending anything or anybody. I just feel like I get it. I know, whatever. And especially if you have like insecurity issues, forget it. You run for the hills.
It's true. I
So,
find that I think in regards to my content, I have to for the sake of my sanity, I have to throw everything out and just see what happens because if I tiptoe around what people think or how people feel, I think I'll never upload anything. And I think at the very least, Flick is that way as well because Flick has pushed every word in the English vocabulary out there to varying results. I think.
I love it.
and
Uh,
yeah, I do. My latest video is definitely kind of embarrassing, but I like it.
no, I don't think so. I think it's you, and you're doing you, and that's fine. And
Well,
like
I
you're
don't
saying,
think
go ahead.
I don't think a son eating his mother's pussy is like really tasteful, but I thought it was funny. But
That's fair. Yeah, very
anyway,
fair.
next question. There, do you have a question?
Mhm.
Is there anything that's either in the pipeline or stuff that you would be jumping to get to once you get time to work on it?
I will say that there is a animated scene for oneself that never saw the light of day. I don't believe, and I'm hoping that someday maybe it will be seen. But I'm obviously not going to post nothing until it's used for its intended purpose. If it's for something else, I'm not going to touch it. Hint, hint. And then also, um, no, I mean, I want to make some animations for like if I were to do Honor Guard versus the Drill Team, but you know how it is. You get to the end of something and then you look at it and you're like, no, that's terrible. And you just delete it and you're like, I'm done. I don't want that. Or you put it in a file somewhere and you're like, no, I'm done. And then I think, well, it's a perfectionist problem. And it's like a weird perfectionist problem because it's more of like an I don't want anybody to see this problem rather than I want to make it better. And I got to get over that. I'm working on that. But no, I can't say anything other than I'm probably going to make some more 2D animations for Jackass Express, but I'm always experimenting with stuff. I'm always using models. I'm trying to find new methods to do things, faster way to do things. And the way I see it is that every little bit you get a little bit better. So that's
I
my
agree.
only
Your animations got better. The further the
thanks, man.
Celtic. What was your out of all the animations you made for me? What would you say is the one you're most proud of,
The one I'm most proud of.
or like, happy with?
Well, I got a little bit too brave with the Delta versus Aladar fight because it was fine, and I want to be perfectly honest. The fighting animations I didn't animate those. I used MMD motion to put those into characters into Blender, and that's what created the fighting scene. But I made the backgrounds. I found the characters. I was able to fix the character's armor, even though I left Delta's visor orange when it should have been blue. I'm so pissed off about that. It still bothers me to this day. But my favorite one is probably the fight between Booker and D'Lo. And
Yeah, that's my favorite as well.
I thought it was fun, and I wanted to think of something because you told me the fight has to start here and it has to end here, and I thought that's cool. So at some point, someone's getting thrown out of a window, and I had the most fun making that one. I enjoyed the one with Luxon and Booker, going off on their gallivanting, but that wasn't. It was more funny. It was meant to be funny, but the one with Booker and D'Lo really helped me kind of find out where I was, and I mean I was okay with it for the time being. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I'd say the Booker smacking Sonya right in the face is probably one of the
God.
funniest scenes oneself.
Oh God, if I could ever take something back, I felt so bad about that.
That
Oh.
was incredible. I don't think I'd ever laughed harder at anything, at least in oneself, than when that happened because it came so out of left field.
Well, it was a part of the story because Booker was so enraged by D'Lo that he'd be willing to punch a woman, his own friend, in the face.
Oh my god.
When I told you to make that, I didn't think you'd make her go flying. I just thought you'd have her fall down. But
I
I
tried
like
looking
the I
for an
like
animation where I tried looking for an animation where she would just collapse or be like, "Ow," you know. But the only one I could find was of someone who like got hit and turned. So like, well, if she hits and turns, she can't just like plop down. She has to move. So she went flying, and even I was like, "Oh God."
people liked it, so it was good.
Yeah, people loved it.
I also enjoyed animating Aladar with a beard. That was fantastic.
And John loved that scene as well.
That made me really happy that after everything, and he had to have not known that it was me that did it. So when he saw it and he started laughing, I was like, "Oh, that's cool. All right, yay!"
Yeah. Oh, Derelict, you should probably ask him about Retold.
Oh, asking about Retold, sorry. Yeah, so Celtic, obviously, or Celtic has obviously done a couple of scenes for Retold, and they've always, I think, unless I'm mistaken, they've all been animated, and they've all been, each one has been better than the last. You have sent me your recent scene, and in regards to where you started with Retold, or even with oneself to where you are now, can you even, never mind what I think, but what in regards to watching your own work back, do you see the growth, or do you see like just something that you've kind of been delivering upon and been kind of just expanding upon each time?
I think my main thing is like what I tried to get better at is realistic. Like I don't like the idea that something looks so obviously um out of place or something looks so weird. Like I remember there was one of the animations I did for you for Retold, and I just remember seeing like the character move, like they do a little janky motion with their arm, and that's all it took for me to be like, ah, doggone it, because when you see that stuff, it takes you out of the moment, right? And it takes you out of the illusion of a story. So I like to think that I've made progress with pacing in a way that would try to make people not leave the moment. And if like the scene that I have with you, I don't know if you care if I say which scene I had or not, but I could just say two people were talking to each other, and one of them has a helmet, and so that's not that big a deal, but the other one didn't have a helmet. But at the same time, I didn't want them just staring forward with their eyes not doing anything, so I was trying my best to get the eyes and the mouthing expression and the person to make it look like it's actually a person. Because I mean, if you're gonna add to or if you're gonna redo the original content, you don't wanna just give them the exact same thing. You wanna try to do something a little bit more. So, I went with that. So if I could say that I gotten better with anything, it's trying not to make my scene so long, even if it's just like what I call eye candy, and make it more like the little small time you have, make it as cool as you can, and then leave it. Hit it and then leave it alone. You know?
Do you feel the same way, Flick, in terms of how you shoot your machinima going forward?
And yeah, I guess I do. I don't really do super long drawn out stuff. I don't think so. I don't think I ever have.
It's
How about you, Derelict? Are your machinimas drawn out and long?
it's hard to say because the next Chewies I'm doing now, which is coming out on Wednesday. Please watch Chewies 5 Awards Night. It has a blend of machinima and animated segments. I just want people to like it. At least with oneself, all the animated segments felt like they were part of it, and when if they ever felt like they weren't part of the scene, they were still really entertaining. Because I think if you look at the episode with Aladar and what's his name, Delta having their fight scene, I never noticed that visor thing until Celtic said it. But like obviously that the environment is a little different than than the forge worlds that Aladar and Delta are on. That kind of level on unpredictability that I like about oneself, and obviously Celtic's content as well. But it's that Venn diagram where Celtic's ability to animate intersects with your desire to
Just
just make stuff that no one else is doing, which is
yeah, and
what
his
I
story.
yeah.
It's cool.
The story is cool as well. So I like how Flick kind of takes chances and
I was gonna ask Flick a question, if that's
Oh,
okay.
has this become the Jackass Express podcast?
No. I just wanted to ask you a question. About a kind. It's about Delta, because I've always been very curious. I know you were really generous with letting us kind of come up with the backgrounds for the character, but who was Delta originally to you when you introduced him into your story?
Who Delta was to me?
Like what
Um,
purpose was he going to serve?
he was he was another villain for. Actually, I will tell you one thing. Delta was brought in for because you know in episode 6 how Taurus dies.
Mhm.
Originally, Delta was in that role. He was going to be the character that Booker would first defeat in
Oh,
episode
okay.
6. But then I liked your performance so much that I swapped Taurus and Delta around. So I made it so Taurus died first.
Oh, cool beans.
So you saved Delta, I guess, in a way.
Yay!
it's also convenient that you didn't like Schnoz enough to keep his character on. So I guess it's convenient that happened as well.
Yeah, that was very convenient. It was very convenient indeed.
Yeah.
God, I need a piss.
Okay, Flick, you can take your piss. While you're taking your piss, we'll do an ad break for Jackass Express.
Like I said, I'm also part of the Jackass Express podcast, which covers various topics related to gaming, entertainment, pop culture. As a content creator, I strive to create engaging and entertaining content that informs and engages my audience. Our motto at Jackass Express is learn to laugh at life and yourself, because we all take ourselves way too seriously, and we just need to, in my opinion and our opinion, relax and enjoy the ride. essentially. I feel like what sets us apart is on the podcast is the dynamic between our hosts. We're all gamers and pop culture enthusiasts, and we love and have different opinions and perspectives, making for interesting discussions, just like here on this awesome, cool podcast. Our fans appreciate our authenticity, I think, and our approach. And I just love it. We also have a website, jackassexpress.com. It's in a little bit of a hiatus because obviously everything comes down to the time to be able to work on this stuff, but it's there with our back catalog, and we're on iTunes and the Google Play, whatever that is. And now, just recently, they introduced the podcast feature in YouTube. We added some episodes to that.
I'm back, bitches.
It puts things in perspective when Celtic talks about all the platforms that his podcasts are on. When I don't think any podcast with any self-respect would platform you and me. Like, I think
I disagree. I disagree because our very name is something that people will look at and be like, I don't want to listen to something called the Jackass Express podcast. First off, they're ripping off these jackass people, and they're going to get in trouble, that was not my intention. But I think you guys are really funny. You got a great dynamic. So, and you're covering a really niche topic, which I enjoy very greatly, and so do a lot of people. So, I don't know. I think it's cool.
This is probably the only podcast that's covered machinima.
yeah, right. I'm sure it'll be insanely popular.
How much views did the last episode get? Like 80?
No, it got like 122.
Oh, wait, what? People like our show?
Well, I mean, it's going to be people who know who we are, right?
Hey, Maria. Hey, Meow Meow. They're the only two people I know watch our podcast.
I think obviously I think Celtic watched the first episode.
I did.
Yeah.
I was laughing my butt off the entire time.
Yeah, so even he has the mental fortitude to listen to both of us. So I mean, we're doing good, Flick.
Hey.
I don't even know if you saw Flick, but I started making clip videos. So now we're like JRE as well. We just need to start talking about, we just need to talk about and other stuff. And
Yeah, you can milk our podcast for what it's worth.
yeah,
Channel.
No, I was just gonna say I will definitely be continuing to listen. I've enjoyed them very greatly.
good. Hopefully Flick continues to listen as well when I tell him Flick, be on time.
I was on time. I was here.
Flick, you were 15 seconds over. That's not okay.
No, I was here before Sheila got on here. Like, seriously.
Yeah, well, also you have to be before our guests because we have to be able to roll out the red carpet for them in the green room. It's only polite.
Celtic, I hate you.
There were no mints. I'm very
There were
disappointed.
Celtic had an expressed rule about green M&Ms coming in, and we didn't do that. And obviously, like, how are we going to get him back? If we need to do a second podcast or a follow-up with Celtic, how are we going to get him back now? We did not meet those requirements.
I
Please
have the
come
pleasure
back.
to
We'll
tell
get
you.
you green M&Ms.
I absolutely would come back. Should you guys get bored enough, I absolutely will come back.
We will.
Have you guys thought about what other machinimators you would want to have on here?
Well, there is definitely one machinimator I would want on the podcast, but
Yes.
I don't think it's going to happen unless he's listening to the podcast right now and he would like to come on. He may be, maybe a person we've mentioned on the podcast.
I
Yes.
think if it's given enough time, you might be surprised. But I think right now, it's just he's trying to remove himself from a lot of issues that he faced with our particular community, which I'm not going to exclude myself from. I was definitely involved with that, but I didn't. We're basically just living through it as it was happening. But if you give him time, I think he might change his mind about a couple of things. He's not a bad guy. He's actually a very decent guy. He's just got a lot. There's a lot I disagree with him with. That's all.
Exactly. I'm sure we'll come around and we'll definitely do the podcast at some stage.
You know who I've always wanted to interview was Michael Johnson, the guy who did that show called Pre-Game Lobby. I think Flick, that'd be right up your alley because it's a combination of not just machinima, but real life action footage. It's him and his friends, and they do stuff in real life, and they also tell their story through their interactions in Halo 3. It's super old, and the voice acting and it's dated, but the jokes hit. They're hilarious, and the guy had a story going, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh, how about Derelict? How about that guy?
Yep. I think John was on the pre-game lobby at one stage, wasn't he?
Oh, he was? Well,
I
we
don't.
gotta watch it
I,
then.
don't- I could be remembering it wrong, but I remember him. Was pre-game lobby hosted on Machinima at one stage?
Yep, that was one of the original.
I feel like he was on that. I could be totally wrong, but I feel like he was at one stage.
Flick, you were saying that John's like your hero when it comes to machinima. What was that moment for you that you're like, hey, I want to do this. I want to give this a shot.
Well, even I want to make my own machinima.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've always watched. Well, actually, I wouldn't say John was the main inspiration behind that. I would actually say a machinima series called The Forgotten Spartans was the main inspiration behind me wanting to make machinima. Specifically, the winter battle, the battle that takes place in Avalanche. That's what made me want to make machinima. If you've ever seen that.
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it, but I'm definitely aware of its existence. Like I remember the Forgotten Spartans for sure.
That's, and I actually almost was on. I was almost an extra on Forgotten Spartans,
Oh,
but
nice.
my in real life friend turned off the Xbox because he didn't want to make machinima with me, and I hated him.
Oh, oh no. Yeah,
Yeah,
that can happen.
I punched him in real life, so it's okay.
As a result of that,
No, it was later, but I wanted to fucking kill him ever since.
well, I think you might be happy to. I'm happy to maybe hint that there might be a reference to the Fallen Spartans and Flick in the next Chewies that should be out by the time we do this podcast.
Oh yeah, Chewies is out right now, guys. It was a great episode. You should watch it right now.
It was a solid 5, I think,
Okay, it sucks. Don't bother then.
based.
Awesome, serious show. Everybody should watch it. Derelict gave me a female avatar in the first episode.
Oh
I'm,
shit!
I
Did
don't know.
I?
Yeah, it's okay. No, I understand. it's all
Oh,
it's all good. No, it's fine. It's okay. But no, it's cool. Derelict, I'm assuming. I mean, both you guys, you've seen all of Deus Ex Machina, right? The original.
Actually, no.
You haven't seen
I've
all of
not
it.
seen-
Well,
No, I haven't. I've never watched it.
you'll be happy to know that my questions for you guys is not necessarily about Deus Ex Machina, but it's about. Did you guys ever watch a series called Spoof Ex Machina?
No.
I
No.
haven't.
It was the very first time I've seen somebody do a parody of a machinima, which in itself was kind of like that's interesting. But it was of a guy who basically was the same character design, and he wore pink armor, but he like overly exaggerated John's characters. And I thought if anybody did a good job of poking fun at him in that particular series, that whoever did that. But what's funny is to this day, if you go to look on YouTube, you can't find it. So I don't know what happened. And it's like there was no reason for that person to have taken it down. It was hysterical, but I guess something happened and it's no longer there.
Yeah.
That maybe you should put that on your notice thing for the content you're looking for.
I think you would enjoy it. I mean, there wasn't
Yeah.
that many episodes, but it's like he took it shot for shot and made a like a Monty Python Holy Grail type of parody of it, and it was funny. It was really funny.
That sounds incredible. That almost sounds like the not the prelude, but that sounded like the basis for what we did Abnormality 3 for, right? Because I when I was doing Abnormality 3, I marathoned all of Deus Ex Machina. I marathoned all of Abnormality. What's the other one? What's the other one I'm missing?
Um,
Abnormality
Hard
uh
Justice.
Hard Justice, yeah. I marathon because I'd never watched the second season of Hard Justice. I've watched at least the first season by that stage. I marathoned all of John's work that wasn't RB in 1 week, and then me and the OGs of the RB Discord kind of just filed together and threw that shit together in like a week. And I don't know how it didn't turn out worse than it did.
I thought it was great. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I like it a lot because the problem is if you're someone who's not overly familiar with me and what I do, you could say, oh yeah, it's primitive or it's kind of like noobish because it's Derelict's first piece of work or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, like, I kind of intentionally made it badly because I wanted it to not just replicate John's work, but replicate what early machinima was, where it's just people figuring out shit in real time. And
Mhm.
I could never convince anybody of that because it was my first. It's the first
You know
machinima
what?
that was on my channel.
Yeah, one of the first emails I ever got from John, way back when. I mean, like a long time ago, and this should show you how stupid everybody was back then and how stupid I felt. I asked him, John, how do you do that thing where you zoom in on the camera? And he literally writes back to me an email, pushing the toggle stick. And I'm like, well, damn.
I don't want to name names here, but
Sure.
there's certain people that I've been mentoring in machinima lately. So obviously I've been made chewies, but the next video I'm working on is a guide to machinima, like how to make it,
Nice.
like kind of like John's one, but a little more up to date.
Right.
Kind of like almost like a little more tangible as well. I've been mentoring. Well, I wouldn't say I've mentored Flick. Flick has nothing to learn, but in terms of two other individuals I've been mentoring, I think D27 Chigu would be okay with mentioning their name, but I don't know if the other person would be okay with me mentioning their name. But I've been mentoring them in making machinima, and all of their shots in their machinima have been kind of extreme wide shots and
Mhm.
kind of static shots where they haven't been moving.
Mhm.
And I've been trying to not coach them out of that, but teach them the importance of having fluid shots that move with the character, or at least pan or tilt to unveil something. And they haven't been getting it, but they did get to the point where they would start using that right stick to zoom into stuff. But the problem is that became the basis for everything they made afterwards. So when we looked at stuff together, like the John stuff for the season 8 finale, or maybe not Flick stuff, but D27 stuff,
Mhm.
the basis of the quality of the work always became they didn't click right on the left stick, as if that was like the only qualifier about whether or not their work was good or not. And I was trying to teach them, like,
Ah.
you don't have to do that, but it's cool where you have dynamic shots where you kind of utilize everything that's in Forge or Theater, because
Mhm.
people who just kind of stick to one or two features tend to they don't lose anything, but they don't make the most of everything. And I think
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why I think oneself does really well, because oneself, you know, for lack of a better term, it does make the most of everything. And when it doesn't make the most of everything, it kind of invents things. It invents everything as well. Like it doesn't wait. It didn't wait for things like mods to become accessible to MCC. It kind
Yeah.
of made that, not made it up, but it kind of cultivated that environment on its own.
Yeah, Flick, I'll give you that too, that you weren't hesitant to do something because it would be a limitation of the game. You still wrote it, and that is in itself very bold. So I thought that's what makes the show interesting is that, okay, well, he pulls out a
I think I put a weasel in the falcon.
Goose. Ooh.
I
Fun
mean,
fact: I typed in goose goose, and that was what came up on Google. So
I think I like I like the idea that you're writing as if it were an actual film, feature length film, and then you have to challenge yourself to work within the limitations of your genre, which is machinima, and or medium, I should say. And it you find the substitutes, and that's what makes it cool. I mean, that's what used to make it cool. Is that look at one of the most popular machinimas was Red versus Blue. They didn't. The thing that I think put them on the map is that they were the first ones to realize, hey, we could just superimpose on top of it a wrench or a hat or a skull or something, and that's what made it neat. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Flick, are you
sorry,
okay?
red versus. We don't talk about red versus blue here.
It's more about work process than their actual content. But
Fucking shit.
understood. Understood. I'll stay quiet, sir. I'm
Fuck,
sorry.
fuck Twisted Teeth. I hope it gets shut down. Anyway, I guess. Thanks for coming on, Celtic. It's been a pleasure to have you, and not really a pleasure to have you, Derelict, but good job for being here.
My pleasure.
Because I'm wanting to play my Resident Evil 4 remake that I just got, so yeah. I think that was a pretty good episode, don't you think so, Derelict?
Yeah. I know you've plugged Jackass Express and the other stuff you work on, but is there any other work or any other pages you want to plug before you tap out?
Absolutely. Yeah, if it's all right.
Yep.
In addition to the Jackass Express podcast, there is also an animated series, as I mentioned earlier, called 9 a.m. It's animated by me, and the idea was that every day at 9 a.m. I animate one of these shorts that I put on the YouTube page, Jackass Express. And you'll know it's us. It's our little red logo with our donkey kicking the microphone. And those are about my friend Tip, who's still featured in the machinima I was talking about, and the crazy stories that we come up with. And I like them because they're meant to be little motivational bits for every single day of the week. And if you are interested in 2D animation and seeing a little character do crazy things, please consider checking it out.
I'll check it out. I can't wait to watch that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to toot my horn too much, but I've already made an appearance in some of the
That's
content for
right.
Paddy's Day.
I was so scared that Derelict was gonna like materialize all the way from the other side of the world just to clock me because I made so many what I felt were stereotypical references to Irish people. And I even went so far as to having Tip talking in an Irish accent that was generated by ChatGPT. I just took what I wrote and said, make this in the content. And I just did it. And I was like, I'm going to get murdered. So I thought, oh, I should put a Derelict in there to kill me with a shillelagh. It would work. But thank you for being very patient with me, Derelict. It means a lot.
No, I appreciate it. Before we tap out, Flick, is there anything you're working on or anything you want our viewers to be aware of?
No.
Very prolific.
I mean, I made. You can watch my MachiniphobiC teaser trailer if you want. I guess you might be watching that because of that teaser. So
Ruby's 5 awards night is out now. Buckle yourselves in for RB Retold Season 2, Part 2, coming out on May 31st. This is the MachiniphobiC podcast. Until next time, be on your best behavior and drink plenty of water.
I'll be a good boy.
Farewell.
You better not fuck up the recording now, Derelict.
What?
Derelict, don't fuck up the recording.
What if I fuck it up, Flick? What will you do?
I'd fucking come and rape you.
You're gonna reap me of all my rewards? Is that what you're gonna do?
Yes. Please, this is a really good episode. I don't want you to fuck it up, like, seriously.
What if I accidentally fuck it up? We have to start again.
Well, we're not start. Well, you can make an AI voice generator and you can place that and put me in there.
So you want me to AI generate an entire podcast between you and me and Celtic, yeah?
Yes, because I don't want to record it again. Because it's never. If we have to redo it again, it'll never be as good as the first recording.
I don't agree. I think Celtic is a very charismatic guest.
But it's just not going to be the same. Please don't fuck it up, please.
Okay. I'll try, Flick.
Derelict.
Yes.
Please. Goodbye, everyone. Bye. We'll edit in a goodbye song. Bye.